KC Laboratory. Sponsored by Emprise Bank.
It's another live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. You deserve a checking account that always goes for two, as in 2% cash back. Earn more on everyday purchases with a cashback checking account at Emprise Bank. Visit emprisebank.com. Member FDIC. So appreciative of them. Wish we were talking on a more upbeat level. As much as Emprise has done, they deserve 20 straight wins from the Kansas City Chiefs, I think. But here to help me talk about the first loss of this season for your Kansas City Chiefs is my dear pals. First, find him on Twitter at Chief in Carolina, Maddie Lane. What's good?
Kent, I'm gonna be very upbeat, but I think we have to deal with the elephant in the room. You specifically chose a close game to not jinx the Chiefs when we did game predictions. This is your fault. Had you just picked a blowout, this game would have ended as a 2-score win for the Chiefs. And really, I think Chiefs division should be about Kent cowarding out of his game prediction because you guys try to make him feel guilty when we all pick blowouts. Craig, what say you?
I totally agree. It's a new season. There was nothing to prove that there was going to be a weird game by the Chiefs doing this. So Kent went and ruined it. I see how it is. My goodness. I am going to take you to task. We're going to wrestle. It's going to be great. We are full on into Chiefs to this.
Yeah, it's Chiefs to this time, which means I'm wearing a white t-shirt right now. I think I need to change the attire up a little bit. Please hold just a second. We need to get the sweater out, I think. For some Chiefs to this. So let me go ahead.
No, you do that.
Put this bad boy on because it's time. We have a lot to talk about. We got a lot of grievances to air. I put out a tweet on Twitter, just a safe space for everybody. 322 of you jumped into my mentions to complain about the Kansas City Chiefs, the last place Kansas City Chiefs.
Last place Kansas City Chiefs, huh?
Oh, yikes. It just doesn't feel good. Like, none of this feels good.
First time since Mahomes has been the quarterback. Yikes.
I mean, the things I'm not used to. I'm not used to this team losing in September. Right. I'm not used to Patrick Mahomes throwing interceptions in September. I'm not used to Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbling the football. And yet, all three of those things happened last night. I really don't know where to start with this. I think we need to start with the defense. Does that seem about right? Because I know all of our conversations this entire day in the DMs has been largely about the defense. We've barely talked about Clyde, but we've talked a lot about this defense, Craig.
Yeah, I suppose we can start with the defense. I'd like the defense to start. Hey-o. No, this defense is frankly getting pushed around way too much for the investment that they have in the front seven. When you've got a bunch of guys that are bigger guys that are supposed to play the run well on the defensive line, and you put out there a bunch of linebackers that are bigger guys and supposed to stop the run well, hey, you should stop the run well. And they give up some things in coverage and in the pass rush by having these types of guys. I don't disagree with it in theory, but you have to execute. So if you're going to invest all this time and effort into developing these bigger guys, these run stuffers in your front seven so that you can get to those third downs and be able to use the blitzes that we know Spagnuolo has, you should have those guys stuff the run. And they can't right now. It's awful how bad they are, especially on first down. You guys, they're giving up almost 8 yards of play on first down. That's silly. You can't get into a blitz strategy. You can't get into a pass rush strategy if you are constantly in first down because you're constantly giving up first downs. And that starts and ends with that terrible run defense.
I don't even know how we go about bringing up the Chiefs' run defense to Chiefs to this. Like, I don't even know where you start with this because
it's all bad. Yeah,
it's a failure on every level. And I'm not just sticking it to players. Like, I don't know what's going on defensively this year. Craig's focused a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, through the first watch of this game and the Cleveland Browns game that I have. But are they doing something different? Because Anthony Hitchens looks like he's playing slow again to me. He looks
Yeah.
like he's back to his first year in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Even when I watch a quick replay, just everything he's processing is slow. It's like he's thinking about first what he has to do and then trying to react to what the offense has to do. And that's what he wasn't doing that last year. When we said he started to play better last year, it's because he seemed to understand his job and then could just react to the offense and what they were doing. But now you have Anthony Hitchens doing that, but not only him, you have everybody doing that. And then you have Chris Jones, and he's still the best player on this defense. He is not reacting to anything. He's just kind of there when he's playing defense. Like if it's not 3rd and long, Chris Jones is just kind of standing there, not doing a whole lot. You then have outside linebackers coming in and almost running into him, trying to fill the same gap that he's just kind of blandly standing in, not really doing anything. You have these deep safeties either are over pursuing their angles when they're coming from deep. They're not coming down and running the alley at all. Nobody can really get off of a block. Like the Chiefs' only good run defense plays in this game seem to be when the Ravens, and people, please don't take this as Frank Clark was great because he also played poor, but there was a couple plays where they tried to read him and he made a good play on it, or Nick Bolton on a run blitz off the edge. Those are the only 2 times they played the run well. Anytime it was stacking up, the blockers and trying to make a play, pursuing someone to the sideline, nothing, nada. This defense, top down, looks awful.
Yeah. I mean, and it shouldn't look awful because there's a lot of investments on this defense. I mean, I think I saw someone that said they're the 2nd most expensive defense in the National Football League this year. I mean,
so someone make a play. Somebody in that front 7 make one play.
They've invested way too many assets. Our guy, BK Sports Talk, Brandon Kiley, the Chiefs are spending 25% of their 2021 cap on the defensive line. It's the highest percentage in the league, and only 5 other teams are over 18%. But it doesn't stop there. The Chiefs have 2 top 100 picks on their defensive line right now on rookie contracts. They have 2 second-round picks at linebacker on this roster. Oh, and by the way, Anthony Hitchens is the 5th most expensive linebacker in the National Football League this year. His cap hit is 5th. This is a group with a lot of assets devoted to him. A lot. And it's old, it's young. Nobody is doing their job. And it's infuriating. It's so frustrating to see that from a Steve Spagnuolo defense. I don't understand what's happened here. Where's the leadership? I don't get it, Craig.
I don't either, because it's a polar opposite of what we saw in the preseason. And I know that preseason is very vanilla, and the Chiefs went up against arguably the 2 best rushing offenses in the NFL. So if you want to take any silver lining, know that it's probably not going to be as painful as this going forward. But that being said, they didn't win. Like, they didn't show signs of hope, signs of taking steps, signs of making progress. And it's getting to the point where Spagnuolo is run blitzing regularly. He's just got guys attacking specific gaps and having them fail fast, because that's better than standing flat-footed at the second level and just getting completely washed away. Chris Jones, tough assignment here. Don't get me wrong. Going up against a pistol read option offense, especially one as good as Greg Roman's, is tough. But my goodness, like the way that they had him attacking the play was more like how they have Frank Clark, a guy who's played defensive end his entire career, attacking the play. Have Chris attack the dive with a scrape exchange over the top. Who cares if it's predictable? At least you're going to have something. You're going to have consistency. You're going to be able to try and set an edge over there a little bit better than the Chiefs did. It's certainly better than what they were trotting out there. But unfortunately, it just didn't matter after they escaped that front 7, because then on the back end, nobody can make a tackle. Dan Sorensen has missed 9 tackles in 2 weeks. And it baffles me why he's continuing to get run. The major knock on Juan Thornhill is that he struggles with consistency and that he struggles in the run game. Well, guess what, guys? Dan Sorensen's also struggling with consistency and in the run game, but at least Juan's got a little athleticism, ball skills, and can maybe cover a guy a little bit. So it just, some of the decision-making is baffling. And you're seeing it crop up now 2 weeks in a row against good football teams and good offenses that are making this defense just, frankly, look like Swiss cheese.
Well, I think the hard part with Juan Thornhill, and I agree, like at this point in time, if Dan Sorensen's not going to get his tackling back under control, which I mean, historically, he's been a fine tackler to safety. He's actually really good. This is, Craig and I have talked about it. We like Dan Sorensen playing as a deep safety because he's good at following his role deep, and then he's good at coming downhill and run support. Juan Thornhill, that's where he kind of struggles the most, is that downhill and run support. So for this game, like we just see it, Juan Thornhill only played 11 snaps. I get it from a game script perspective why you would not have him out there a ton on this game. I get even a little bit why you would see Rashad Fenton play over Mike Hughes a lot of nickel because he's a little bit better of a tackler. He's been in the system while he knows how to play that brand of football against this team. I get the game script. I can tell you this, by mid-second quarter, it was pretty clear that whatever you were doing wasn't working. Like, just start flooding in some more talented guys. Let's just get the younger talent on the field. Dan Sorensen isn't making or breaking this team going to the Super Bowl this year or ever. Like, he's a good player to have. He helped them win a Super Bowl, but he's not getting them to another Super Bowl ever. That's just not the kind of player he's going to be. You know who could be? Juan Thornhill. He doesn't look like he's trending in the right direction since his rookie year. You know, there's been some ups and downs with injuries, confidence, but he still could help you get there this year, next year. Like, he could be a building block. Let's see him play over Dan Sorensen. I didn't want to go back to one quick thing, though, with just the Ravens rushing attack. I agree with Craig. They made it really hard on the Chiefs. They threw a lot of different runs at the Chiefs. Through the first half, I think I counted 7 different types of runs. By the end of the game, we were up into the double digits. They threw a lot of stuff. You know what they found out? The Chiefs had no idea at all how to fit the read bash option with the lineman pulling to the backside. Every single play was the backside defensive end was squeezing down. Linebacker would come in on essentially a scrape exchange, but you know what that linebacker did every single time? Filled the same gap as the defensive end. Whether he crashed, whether he went wide, they hit the same. The Ravens added an extra gap routinely, and the Chiefs put 2 players in the gap every time. A lot of wrong shouldering the pulling blocker, a lot of defensive ends out of position. It was just the Ravens made it hard. The Chiefs adapted absolutely none to it throughout the entire game.
Before we jump off of this, run defense real quick. Just numbers on the season. Run success. The Chiefs' highest run success defender is Frank Clark, is Derek Nottie, and then after that, nobody else has higher than a 33% run success rate. That means 2/3 of the time, the offense is getting ahead of the sticks with everybody else. And the linebackers are worse. So it's real bad. It's real consistently bad. So something really desperately has to change there.
I mean, yeah. And the thing is, like, the Ravens found some success in the air too. Like, I mean, there was a lot of guys open. Lamar missed some plays, but they had some explosive pass plays too. Like, there was coverage bust. Like, we can just go there too. I guess this might be Chiefs if it's just about the defense. Probably should just be about the defense. Probably.
No. I got some offensive stuff that I'll load off my chest.
Stuff.
You can chill out right now.
Well, I would rather just pretend that it's just all the defense's fault.
Of course you would.
I know, right? But like, okay, the back into the defense, like communication issues. You know, something. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu raising his hand in confusion. That doesn't happen very often. This team had their issues in coverage as well. Some big explosive plays surrender. The linebacking core has no ability to cover. And I'm sorry. I know Nick Bolton was a big conversation yesterday. I'm not going to try to rehash that too much. You guys can go ahead and rehash it if you want. I'm just going to say the Ravens actively targeted him. We really didn't talk about this much yesterday. They actively targeted him in two big plays. It was 2nd and 15. They went after Nick Bolton. They threw in Nick Bolton's zone, back-to-back plays for an easy first down. There's some big coverage issues, not just with Nick Bolton, but with everybody. But this is the frustration I have with some of the roster composition is this team, okay, cool. You're going to invest in your front 7, and your front 7's kind of built to stop the run. You got thumpers. You got Nick Bolton, a thumper, who's really not a coverage player. He didn't look like a coverage player coming out. Not a good athlete. Him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not good athletes. Very average NFL athletic profiles that went very early for this football team. The backs, the second level of that defense cannot cover. They have not been able to cover in the Steve Spagnuolo era. But if they can't defend the run either, that's problematic for this team. They're like, what are we doing here? They've invested too much for this front seven to be as bad as it has been, and for the second level of that defense to be as bad as it has been in coverage.
And you got Willie Gay coming. Like, there's at least some athleticism that you can add to the second level. So it's not all doom and gloom there, but he's not going to just eradicate every single issue that this team has. He's just not. By the way, speaking of Nick Bolton in coverage, he's been targeted the second most of any Chiefs defender through 2 weeks, behind Charvarius Ward, which you would expect Charvarius Ward to see a lot of targets. He's a cornerback. He's matching up against number one options often.
He's not a very good cornerback. I'm sorry.
Well,
no. Really quick. This is Chiefs to this. This is time to get this out, Craig. I'm sorry. But, really quick. Can I just get can I get 10 seconds?
Go for it.
Charvarius Ward has not been good for 3 years. He's not been good. And people have been banking and hanging on the 3 games he showed promise as an undrafted free agent his rookie year. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. That's it. He's not been good for 3 seasons. Please continue.
Anyway, Bolton, second most on the team in targets, a 12.5% coverage success rate. 12.5%. I talked about how 2/3, like, that's bad when your offense is converting 2/3. When you are being targeted and you are giving up that much yardage at that clip in scenarios where you need to play better. I think we all remember him being, at the sticks late, in a drive and not being able to trigger downhill, close the space, and try and bring the ball carrier down short of the sticks. It's a struggle. It's like Kent said, like I said to start the top of this show, if you are going to have run stopping linebackers, it has to be good against the run, because you are going to get beat up in coverage. And this is now going to be year 3 of Steve Spagnuolo and these linebackers in coverage that are struggling. And you can't keep trotting that out. Offenses will pick on them, as we are seeing here. It's not Nick Bolton's fault that he's being picked on here. He is being put in this scenario. Yep. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked there. Coverage is just oof.
It's been bad. Like Craig said, there's a low success rate. According to Pro Football Focus, he's been targeted 7 times in the year, given up 7 catches, averaging over 10 yards per reception against them. There's a lot of yak coming on these receptions too. He's not getting guys down as soon as they catch it. Like, I get it. He hasn't been missing tackles for the Chiefs. I get that when he gets his hands on guys, he brings them down. Mm-hmm. He's just getting his hands on them down the field or after they catch the ball. That's kind of a problem. Now, the good news is he's going to be taken out of this role when Willie Gay comes back, presumably. This is not going to be his role to keep forever. He's being asked to play a role he probably shouldn't be. I then wonder, I know everybody hates him. I just wonder, are we sure Ben Niemann's worse? Like, are we sure Ben Niemann's worse in coverage than Nick Bolton?
Ben Niemann, 16% coverage success rate.
Improvement. Listen, I'm not saying Ben Niemann changes anything drastically. It's just, and I can't speak out of both sides of my mouth. If I'm going to say play Juan Thornhill over Sorensen, I really don't care if you play Bolton over Ben Niemann. I just think the coverage from the linebackers is really, Anthony Hitchens is getting the most difficult coverage assignments that this team is putting on linebackers. This is a guy they go out of their way to make sure isn't on the field when they think the offense is going to pass. Yeah. He's currently getting the most difficult coverage assignments. He hasn't been terrible, hasn't been good, hasn't been terrible. So, it's not a good look right now. And like Craig's saying, this defense is built to stop the personnel is built to stop the run, and they're not doing it. This defense is built to get teams in 2nd and long, 3rd and long. Let's have Steve Spagnuolo get out the kitchen sink, throw it onto the field, bring 13 guys, even though 11 are on the field, like 8 other guys are going to run off the sideline in coverage. That's what they're made to do. You can't do that if it's 3rd and 2 every single play, and the quarterback can just run right up the middle for 8 yards every single time. This defense, like, everybody's mad at Steve Spagnuolo, and I get it. Part of the issue is the personnel. Part of the issue is 1st and 2nd down defense, but you got to look at the players as well. Some of these players aren't doing their jobs. They're not letting Steve Spagnuolo get to the point that he wants to get to. Where he excels is in those passing situations. Yeah. We just aren't getting there. Now, the Chiefs aren't getting there.
Steve Spagnuolo always says, you earn the right to rush the passer. they're not earning that opportunity. And I mean, the run fits have been horrendous. One thing I keep thinking about, and we looked at it with the roster construction. Chris Lamons got a big holding special teams penalty, by the way, this week. We look at the roster construction of this football team. We look at the playing time decisions, and this is I think maybe to a fault, there's a strong desire. It feels like to not hold on and give young players opportunities. It feels like there is a desire for, Daniel Sorensen's a known commodity. He's more known than Juan Thornhill, even though this is the third year that Juan Thornhill has been here. There feels like there's a little bit Ben Neiman getting opportunities. I feel like, this coaching staff loves to hold on to some of these guys and give guys in these known commodities some opportunities to play. And that could be starting to become at their detriment, because Dan Sorensen's 3 years younger than when Steve Spagnuolo met him, by the way. Just so you know. I just think about this. It's just like, we scratch our head at some of the roster decisions. We scratch our head at why certain guys are playing. There's a little bit of, I don't think this coaching staff is not forward thinking. I do think that they overvalue special teams, and maybe maybe Steve Spagnuolo is overvaluing some things, some of that comfortability that he has with some of these guys. And it didn't manifest itself when he first got here, but that was 3 seasons ago. Things are different now, and he hasn't maybe adapted the same way personnel wise that maybe we should be seeing at this point. I don't know.
I mean, you see this team routinely playing guys that, quote unquote, know the playbook and are smart players. That's not to say that Andy
flat out said today, they asked him why Dan Sorensen over Juan Thornhill. It was he had a better camp. He was more consistent. And it just, we're comfortable with Dan. I mean, they're more comfortable with Dan, and they're not as comfortable, and they don't trust Juan as much. I mean, that's it. Right. Read between the lines.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So they would prefer to play these quote unquote smart players that make smart decisions, just like a smart decision for you in Kansas City would be our good pals at Macadoodles. All right, so the Chiefs were bad, and we all know that they were bad. And you may have been sitting around your house last night thinking, oh man, I really wish I had a little more alcohol in my house to help get rid of this memory a little bit better than what I have. Well, if you had a place like Macadoodles in Kansas City, not only could you go get the best selection for the best prices, you would also get the best customer service. So if you were sad, if you were not feeling great about how your football team played, guess what? You go in there, they'll make you feel better. They'll take good care of you. And that's why we need one in Kansas City for days just like this. So if you're a franchisee, get a hold of Roger at info@macadoodles.com. Let's get one up here. Make the smart decision, not the ones that we're talking about with, Sorensen and all of that. Make the smart decision to get one of these up here.
Craig, that's a really smart decision, but we're not having any more days like this ever again.
Oh, God, I hope so. Man, I would like nothing more than to never have that ad read for myself again.
We can get to the offense here in a second, but I think I said this on the post-game show or something to this vein. Our fan base, yes, losing the Super Bowl sucked. There was a lot of circumstances around losing the Super Bowl. The Raiders lost the year before. It was just kind of felt like they walked through the game and got caught. I'm not used to this feeling. I think it's been since the Super Bowl season where we were frustrated with the Colts game, where Chiefs just really shined against the Texans and the Colts and the Titans. This feels like the first time we've had some of that kind of angst and that kind of airing of grievances since then. Like, that's how it feels. Like, it's been a couple years since we've had to experience quite this.
Because I don't think that you can make excuses as a fan for this game. I don't think the Super Bowl, you were down to, third stringers playing across the offensive line, and the Bucs were much healthier, and things clearly went their way with a couple pass interference calls that you can directly point to. Not saying they weren't a better team, but there are direct things that you can make an excuse for in your mind that make a lot of sense. The Raiders came out and flipped their entire offensive script on its head, and that's how they beat the Chiefs. So yeah, they were better, but they still flipped it on their head. They still got a couple things, to go right. This game, both teams made mistakes. Both teams didn't play their best version of their football, and then everything else being equal, the Chiefs just got bopped. They got mollywopped up and down the field on both sides in the trenches, it seemed like. I think the offensive line was good. We'll get there, but they didn't do a good job just playing. They were physically outmatched. The Ravens were a better team, and there's nothing you can say as a Chiefs fan to make an excuse for why this was a one-off thing. I think the Chiefs would win if they played again tonight, but I don't think you can excuse them getting outplayed. There's nothing I can hang my hat on and say, well, this happened, well, that happened. I think they just simply didn't play as well as the Ravens did.
Yeah. And I mean, up until Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbled that ball, I was still convinced this team was going to win. Even when Patrick Mahomes got the ball back, I was like, well, I'm going to have to rail on the defense again this week, but at least Mahomes is going to go down and work his magic. And, that's what makes it frustrating, is because it finally flipped the other way. They got pushed around. They got beat up. They got bodied. They really did. The Ravens played the more physical game. They made their presence felt. They made more impactful plays. And then when they had the ball, they made things happen consistently. There was very little that the Chiefs defense could do to stop them, which is why it's so demoralizing. It wasn't just explosive plays. It's chunks of 8, 10, 11, just slowly bleeding the defense dry that just makes it so painful to watch and so painful to be on the other end of. And that's why it feels different, because you still expected Mahomes to do his heroics, and the offense couldn't. That fourth quarter, posting a big, fat goose egg. That is rough.
There's some 2018 vibes to what we've experienced the last couple of weeks. A little bit of helplessness on defense and needing Patrick Mahomes to go out and make a bunch of plays for this team to win. And Patrick Mahomes has made all the plays. I mean, the reason the Chiefs lost last night was not Patrick Mahomes. I would have preferred that the ball not leave Patrick Mahomes' hands until the Chiefs scored a touchdown or until, the time ran out and they kicked a field goal. I want to start there, and there's a lot to start offensively. But this is kind of a halfway segue between offense and defense. I hated the decision to run the football there. I absolutely hated it. Patrick Mahomes getting the ball out of his hands, back-to-back plays, got that team into field goal range at the 2-minute warning. They were in great shape. Turn around and hand the football off. And yes, I know you don't bank on Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbling, but the negative plays for this game, largely, there were some negative run plays that game. And the Ravens looked loaded up to defend the run that play. And what happened? Fumble. I hate the idea of the ball not being in Patrick Mahomes' hands or on a throw by Patrick Mahomes being the ultimate nail in the coffin for the Chiefs.
So the tricky part was the Chiefs were technically in field goal range when this happened.
52-yard field goal.
Long field goal, but you're in field goal range. Andy Reid is an incredibly conservative coach. We know this. He has that sheet. Andy Reid does just enough to win games. He's wide open with offensive scheme, with his philosophy, with progressing the game. But in terms of in-game management, he's one of the most conservative coaches there is. He really is. And so as soon as it went to that 2-minute warning, I told you guys when we were watching live, I said,
you did.
They're gonna play for the field goal here. Like, it was obvious. My problem isn't even with the run. My problem was the moment that clock said 2-0-0, the moment Mahomes got them across the 50-yard line quickly, then it hit 2-0-0, I immediately knew they were just going to play for the field goal. Now, I didn't know they were going to run the ball right then. I didn't know what was next, but I very much knew they were going to play to kick. Probably they were, I think they wanted another first down, but I think they were trying to just kick a field goal that is in a comfortable range for what they have. And so that right there, I think, begins the issue that I have. Next, you want to call a run play when your team's barely averaging over 3 yards per rush, and then now all of a sudden the Ravens aren't playing for the pass, as you could see by their alignment. They finally didn't have this spread out defense with only 3 down defensive linemen and Jason Owa playing, outside Travis Kelce 3 yards, outside the tackle box. Like all of a sudden they're playing the run, and now you decide it's a good time to call a run play. It was a wild process to go through this, to do that. And then they did it out of bunch. I got a lot to talk about with this Chiefs bunch formation stuff. So we're going to let Craig get his thoughts in on this field goal drive attempt at the end, the fumble that you can't predict happening. But just the whole concept of that drive was awful. And you could just tell it was coming the moment that ball crossed the 50-yard line.
You heard it here first. Matty blames Patrick Mahomes for being too good and getting the offense across the 50-yard line before the 2-minute warning. It's egregious. It really is. You have to be cutthroat. When you're playing for the tie or when you're playing for a field goal here at the end, you're not putting yourself in the best chance to succeed. And I know that people are going to point to the fact that, let's say that Mahomes scores and there's a minute 12 left to go in the game and you're putting your defense back out there. The Baltimore Ravens have used up a bunch of their timeouts. The Baltimore Ravens are going to have to be in a must score situation, not must field goal, must score situation. And now you're allowing Steve Spagnuolo for one of the very first times in the game to be able to dip into his bag, throw some pressures at Lamar Jackson, which we've seen them do a little bit and have lots of success, and try and keep everything in front of you, tackle them in bounds, force the clock to tick down. Go out that way on your sword with Steve Spagnuolo blitzing rather than trying to bleed the clock. And I know what all the numbers say, and I know what coaches want to do in that situation. But when you have Mahomes and when you have a defense that is playing as aggressively, or is built to play as aggressively, they certainly weren't aggressive before, is built to play as aggressively as this defense is, that's where you got to make your money. So go for it. Try and score, get yourself into the red zone at the very least, and make the field goal a bit of a chip shot for you, and then let your defense try and go out and blitz to win the game.
Well, I don't think they were scoring with 1:56 left on the clock either. Yes, call it 112, call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think they could have navigated the situation. I think they started trying to navigate that situation way too early. And here's the thing. What do we talk about? Make the Ravens one-dimensional. Well, in that situation with one timeout and call it a minute 30, a minute 12, a minute 5, I don't care. That is a one-dimensional football team. That is a one-dimensional football team that at least you know what's coming. Maybe you wouldn't have known. Maybe they would just ran the football and just, it was like a high school team just running the veer down the field with a minute left. I don't know. But that was the situation to put that team and make them one-dimensional. Put the pressure on them. And guess what? Chiefs probably go for 2, I would imagine, in that situation. I mean,
maybe you're up 7. Maybe they're trying to play to tie, and you're putting Lamar Jackson in a chance where he has to throw the ball where he's already thrown 2, should have been 3 interceptions to Tyrann Mathieu. Get yourself in that situation.
I think they should have gone for 2 earlier. That's another story for another day. Yeah. I know Andy's super conservative, but up 11, I'd rather try to go up 12 because now you're 2 touchdowns away instead of a touchdown and a field goal where they're not going to go.
Kent was banging the table for Andy Reid to go for 2 on the first drive of the second half. And I told him there is not a snowball's chance in hell that is ever going to happen.
Is he wrong, though?
No, he's not wrong. He's
should've.
Right. It's just that Andy Reid will never, because that chart does not say he should.
Yeah, that's just frustrating. I didn't love it. All right, so offensively,
let's move on to the bunch. I got a major schematic issue. Tyreek Hill was practically invisible this game. The Ravens found a way to shut down Tyreek Hill, and I need to go back and watch and figure out what they were doing the majority of snaps. I do not think that Anthony Averett was glued to his hip pocket like he was on that fantastic third down play. I don't think he just erased him one-on-one. I think NBC had shown a couple plays where it looked like the Ravens were passing Hill off from an underneath defender to a deep defender, but then immediately retreating underneath him to take away some of those over routes or some of those kind of corner routes that Mahomes always hits him on underneath, kind of that over-the-top help. So I think the Ravens went out of their way to take him out. But do you know when they couldn't do that? When you went empty. Every time the Chiefs went empty and they put a running back out wide, one of two things happened. Patrick Queen, the most athletic player in the middle of that defense, their fastest second-level player, kicked out with them. You know it's man-to-man coverage. And now all of a sudden, the Ravens are not allowed to double-team Travis Kelce over the middle of the field and play Tyreek Hill in that same way, where you're giving him this high-low coverage over the top of him. One of those guys is getting one-on-one. And if not, McCole Hardman, Byron Pringle, Demarcus Robinson are all making plays today. Just keep spreading them out and keep making them cover the entire field. Or you're going to get a cornerback. We saw Marlon Humphrey waste a rep over there, and the Chiefs picked up a lot of yards on the play because he went out and stood over Darrell Williams. So now you know you're getting zone. Now one of their best corners is out of the equation at all. You have mismatches all over the place. Go empty. What they kept doing with these bunch formations, that just allowed the Ravens to stack 2 or 3 guys over Travis Kelce. You have to respect them for Wink Martindale's defense. He could bring any one of those guys or all 3 of those guys. You have to respect them. So you can't just ignore that there's 3 extra guys on the line of scrimmage. Then they're bailing out. They're both covering Travis Kelce. You now can still do the high-low coverage over Tyreek Hill, and you're essentially just wasting all this time out of this bunch formation over and over. Then you're going to go line up and bunch and then run the ball into the 18 guys they have in the box, which causes a fumble to lose the game. I hated the concept of the bunch formation. Now, you can come back to me and say, yeah, Matt, well, Patrick Mahomes threw for 343 yards and 3 touchdowns and played a great game and was on his way to scoring again. Like, I get it. I think Patrick Mahomes is that good. I just think the Chiefs could have made it so much easier on themselves if they just kept spreading it out, because every time they went to bunch, I think they just played right into the Ravens' hands of showing a possible blitz formation, never bringing it, and that allowed them to easily double team the Chiefs' 2 biggest threats over and over again.
That's one of the downsides of condensed formations is, you know, and like, I love condensed formations. I love the value of them, especially with
not this game.
With Tyreek Hill, you know, getting speed outs and having, you know, trying to beat people out to the sideline, and then the arm talent of Patrick Mahomes. I love condensed formations. That is exactly one of the struggles and issues that you have with, you got to be able to ID the blitz. You know, they can show things a little bit more exotically. They can bring things a little bit more exotically when you're playing condensed and everybody's tight like that. And you're right, Maddie kind of did play to that. And I mean, hey, look, if you're playing out of empty, a lot of things have to be declared by the defense. I mean, you're spreading them out. It's a lot more difficult, you know, to not show your hand when you're trying to create pressure or show pressure. You're 100% right.
And the Chiefs' offensive line handled the 3- and 4-man pass rush absolutely no problems. Like, I just don't get why they weren't living there with the success they were having. That's my frustration with this.
Speaking of pass rush,
is this another McAdoodles read?
No, it's not another McAdoodles read.
Okay.
Speaking of pass rush, would you like to rush your? No, I don't have one for that. I think it's worth noting the way that the Ravens played Patrick Mahomes this week. It's something that I'm taking note of because we haven't seen a lot of teams do this yet. As Mahomes has gotten more comfortable with these offensive tackles, and I realize there's only been 2 games, but he looks comfortable stepping up and through the pocket. Teams are now peeling off their underneath defenders and driving on Mahomes and forcing him to try and throw these pop passes over the top, but it's also resulting in a lot of hits, a lot of inaccurate throws from Mahomes. I did not enjoy that Wink Martindale put that on tape, because you are going to see teams replicate that. If Mahomes is going to continue to step up through the pocket the way that he is, which is fine, and that's good, he's going to be taking hits from these teams that are doing that. I'm not trying to say that Mahomes should step up, stand still in the pocket, don't move outside. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But his tendency is to try and extend plays and make things happen. And the way that he's been able to do that recently is that he's got all these defenders in coverage. He's able to make things happen with his legs, or he's able to find an open man. Now, if you got somebody that's kind of dwelling underneath, that's constantly going to spy and peel off and just drive and hammer him, now all of a sudden he's taking a bunch of hits that I don't really want him to take.
The other thing they did with their pass rush, and I think we should mention it too, They took in 3-4 outside linebackers, so a stand-up edge rusher. They put them out wide, usually trip Travis Kelce, but then they came on long, looping, delayed blitzes up the middle. And for similar reasons that Craig is saying, these guys Patrick Mahomes getting better at stepping up. That's the way the Chiefs are blocking this year, and they're doing a really good job of it. Like, the pass protection's been really good. Mahomes is stepping up, and he's still getting used to it. So he's running through the pocket towards the line of scrimmage. He's threatening the line of scrimmage with his legs, trying to throw athletically because that moves defenders. Great concept, great plan. You saw it on the interception. Here comes Owa late looping all the way around. He went up over the top of 2 defensive linemen. He happens to run directly into Patrick Mahomes, attacking the line of scrimmage. That's something that they were doing throughout the whole game. Now, I think the Buccaneers did that to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, not for the same reason, not because Mahomes was stepping up as well, because he was being forced to run up, but that was something the Buccaneers did. I think you might see more teams do that. Rush 3, only rush 4, but send somebody on these late looping blitzes up and across to try to catch Mahomes escaping out the front of the pocket. So he's just got to do a good job of settling down once he steps up. And I think that'll kind of take care of both here. You won't have these underneath defenders crashing on him as he attacks the line of scrimmage, taking extra hits even if he completes the pass. You'll get him settling back in behind his protection. It's just, those are 2 things that I think we did notice about how the Ravens were coming after him, which was different than how the Ravens or any other teams really ever attacked the Chiefs.
All that and all that discussion about how to slow Patrick Mahomes down, and he still went 24-31 for 343 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception.
He was good.
He was good.
That interception was bad, but he makes that happen 3/4 of the time, so you live with it.
Nope, I'll cheese to this stat too. There was no reason to throw that play because there was 0 chance to get a first down. 0 chance if that's complete, it gets a first down. No point to throw that. You live with it because he does it, and it works better than just a 6-yard catch on 3rd and long. It's just as soon as he started to throw that, I said, please just eat that, because there was no chance Travis Kelce's getting a first down there. He had a guy draped on his back and another defender just waiting. Like, nothing about that was a good decision.
No, I'm not going to defend it. And I'm not going to defend turning around and handing the ball off with Patrick Mahomes in the deep red or about to approach the red zone, making it easier field goal. No, I don't like it. I didn't like the move. We got to talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit. I think this is such a, it's going to be a weird conversation. I'm not really even sure how to broach it, because I don't want this to turn into all the issues that we've had with Clyde to this point. It's kind of hard not to, but the fumble was just, man, the absolute worst time to have your first career fumble, Craig.
Yeah. Clyde has, let's just be frank. He has some issues. He's not seeing things particularly well, and it's a new offensive line. There's some understandable adjustments there, but he's also missing some wide open stuff. He's also not beating guys in the open field like we've seen him, do at the collegiate level and a little bit last year. Now we're seeing him run through guys. He's very hard to bring down at times. That's good, but he's not making guys miss in the open field the way that we've seen in the past. And then on top of that, this man doesn't get used in the pass game. And when the Chiefs drafted him, when the Chiefs drafted him, the quote from Andy Reid is, he's a better Brian Westbrook, essentially. And we in the KC draft guide comped him to Brian Westbrook because of the way that Joe Brady and LSU utilized him in the passing game. As we stand right now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is being a non-factor in the passing game, and he's struggling to run the ball. Like, you see Jet McKinnon come in and you see some juice. Like, you see him hitting the edge. You see splash plays out of him. Even Darrell Williams picks up some short yardage stuff. He is what he is. We know what he is. I don't know what Clyde is right now. I have a lot of questions about what this man is. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm writing him off. That doesn't mean that he's a useless player. Far from the case. He still has plenty of time to get in, turn this around, and be a good running back. But it's a really hard pill to swallow right now to watch him ineffectively in this offense.
So I'm not going to crush Clyde for the fumble. I think it was unfortunate. It's a bad timing for it. It happens. It's not an issue. It sucks it happens. It's not an issue. I think like everybody in the Chiefs organization said, this doesn't define him. You can't let it because it's just not who he's been. So like I get that. There might have been some issue with the handoff. It sounded like listening to Andy Reid. I don't know. Bad play, but you're not going to dwell on that. I am going to dwell on this is about the second week in a row this year. Just this year, second week in a row where I really do think he's missing some gaps. I think he's trying too hard to press the wrong gap that the play is not designed for. And he's trying too hard to he's not being patient enough in the right times. He's being overly impatient at the wrong times. Everything he's doing seems out of sync with the entire offensive line. And I get it. It's a new offensive line, a new scheme. It's got to be hard. But there's very obvious times where he is running away from the gap the play is designed to go to just based on the blocks, and he's just not hitting the right hole. When the Chiefs are setting him up with just a 2-gap read, make one defender be wrong, hit the other gap, he's not doing it. He's somehow finding a way to let a defender, whether they're there or not, cover both gaps on him. There was one specific play to the right where you saw him jump cut outside wide for absolutely no reason, and then he tried to immediately jump cut back inside. And yeah, he picked up a couple extra yards coming back inside, but he probably cost himself a good 3-4 yards by not just hitting the hole hard. I would really like to see more Jet McKinnon reps. He only saw 4 snaps. He spent all of them lined up wide, which that's fine even if you want to use him as a receiver. That's fine. I just want to see him on the field
catch,
more.
I think, right?
Yeah, he did a nice catch and run. And so I think I want to see him more because I want to see him run the ball. I don't think Darrell Williams just doesn't look explosive again running the football. He scored a touchdown, great. Followed the blocks, great. But he doesn't look explosive. Let's get somebody out there that can at least threaten the defense if they do hit the right hole. Because right now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is just not doing it. And to keep giving him the majority of the snaps, if you're not going to draw up plays for him in the passing game, and he's not going to bring consistency or particularly explosive plays in the run game, I don't know what you're getting out of him at the end of the day.
Yeah, like one of our issues with Damian Williams was the high variance nature of him running the football, but there was some boom to him. And with Clyde, there's not been a ton of explosive plays. I don't think that's ever going to be like a massive, I don't think he's going to ever break away a 66, 67 yard run. He might get you a 30-yard run here and there, but I don't think it's, his athletic profile was a little concerning coming out, but he lacks the functional explosiveness and athletic ability to really, be a dynamic, game-changing playmaker to a game breaker level. I mean, I don't think he's going to be the guy that's generating a bunch of explosive plays. I think you saw one of those plays, him trying to get out to the edge on one of the runs. He had space to work, but he was just trying to get the edge, and in came a safety closing in quickly. I'm not even sure Clyde was overly confident in his ability to get that corner either. And it's really concerning because, sometimes athletic profiles don't matter. Athletic profiles don't matter until they do, and the anticipation, the vision you saw from Clyde, it's not there right now. What you saw from him in college versus now. And I don't understand it entirely. If it's a lack of confidence, if it's, just getting used to a new offensive line, there is a lot to unpack there with him specifically. And it's not encouraging. It's not encouraging. And this hasn't been a particularly encouraging show. But we will
Can we give a
versus
positive?
4.
We can't give one positive thought on the way out?
Let's give one positive.
Fine.
Kent, you go first because you seem very thrown off by this.
I got to hang out with Craig and Maddie this weekend. We had a delightful barbecue. All of our families got together. It was a big KCSN family picnic, and I had a delightful time, and I love doing this with my friends.
I'll go with the Chiefs one. I thought Lucas Niang looked pretty good. A couple reach blocks that they asked him to make that he struggled with a little bit. There was a number of those along the offensive line. It was not just him with some of those, but I thought that he looked pretty good through 2 weeks. He was a big question mark coming into this thing, and I'm more than happy. Let's ride the rookies.
Yeah, I think this is not going to be mine because you went offensive line, but Trey Smith, I think, is a stud. I think he's well on his way to being a stud. I've talked about this once already this week, so we won't do that again. I'm going to do this one. Guys, Tyrann Mathieu came back and played football this week, and it mattered. Yeah. Like I talked about how there's not a single guy making plays in the front seven. the only player really making plays on this defense was Tyrann Mathieu. And there was some good and there was some bad. Like, he definitely had some bad plays in there, but he made some positive plays. He made an impact. You felt his impact on the field. You knew where 32 was. I can't say you knew where a single other defender on the Chiefs on the field was, besides, laying on the field, missing tackles and not getting where they needed to go. But you knew where Tyrann Mathieu was. The Chiefs need him to keep being this and better. Hopefully everybody else kind of starts to come in with the same mindset and just start a couple more playmakers start showing up, because they need some. But Tyrann Mathieu looked good. He looked healthy. He looked ready to go this year. So this is a great start for him on this season. And, his price tag probably just went up after 2 interceptions immediately coming back.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory Live. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're consuming this. Thanks for listening. We appreciate everyone for investing in what we're doing. Really appreciate you. And we'll catch you later this week with a game preview.